For those of you just joining us, welcome to this webinar. Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. This is Milind and I will be your moderator for today. I takes care of digital marketing here at Suneratech, and I'm excited to be hosting this session today with the leader in ITSM, Sherwell. I am pleased to introduce today's speakers, Vinil, Matthew, and Chris. To give a quick minute intro about the panel today. Starting with Vinil, who is a veteran in the technology and automation space, having led enterprises scale automation success for Fortune 500 companies. Vinil is intimately familiar with the challenges faced by organizations today when undertaking especially transformational projects, I can say. He heads the AI and automation success for customers and serves as a CTO at Suneratech. Coming to Matthew, Matthew is the VP for Global Channels and Alliances of Sherwell. He drives the rapid acceleration of global partner organization. He also provides leadership for collaborative, high-performing alliances and partner sales organization. While Matthew is responsible for rebuilding Sherwell channel resale, delivery, and technology alliances, he also look after launching new programs for MSPs and global system integrators as well. Welcome, Matthew. And also we have Chris, who is the Senior Solutions Engineer and an IT leader whose technical experience helping Sherwell in driving couple of innovative business solutions to its clients. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom. I will bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for Q&A at the end. So without any further ado, I would like to kick off things by welcoming our CTO, Vinil. Vinil, over to you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Milind, for that introduction. Though you kind of sounded, sounded like I'm very old as a veteran. But, all right.
No, not true.
All right. That said, thank you all so much for taking the time out and joining this exciting webinar. And first things first, I hope you're all safe. Your family and friends are safe during this COVID situation and continue to be so. And that said, taking off from that, like my friend Matthew says, right? It's not going to be the same world, right? It's going to be a changed world when we come out of this, radically different in some areas and potentially disruptive in others, right? And that said, I should thank my partner Sherwell, especially Matthew, Zach, Chris, and David, who put in a lot of effort to make this webinar series a reality. So from an agenda perspective, I think we have about 55 minutes, and we'll talk about some very relevant topics in today's world when it comes to IT service management as a function, right? And then we'll start off by looking at what is the state of global IT service management post the COVID situation, because this is where we have seen that ITSM, while it has been transforming the last couple of years rapidly with the advent of AIOps and some of the digital automation technologies, that we are seeing as a trend. Working with more than 200 enterprise customers today, that has rapidly, the transformation journey has rapidly advanced, right? What was 2 years ago in a CIO's typical plan for the transformation is now next quarter, right? So it's become more urgent in terms of both in terms of digitally transforming it so that enterprises can become asset light. The other factor that is pushing transformation in IT service management is the experience of remote work, which is the new normal today, right? The 24/7 global support, which is even more important when people are working remotely. So that those are some of the factors that we are seeing, that are pushing the transformation journey, and accelerating it, right? And taking off from some of those trends, if you can go back, and spend a little minute, right? So some of the trends that we are seeing that our customers are embarking on, one I said, is the 24/7 remote support, is very critical. How do you enable that? So that's the foremost ask of most of the CIOs, and the customers that we work with today. And Matthew can add to that. The number two trend that we are seeing is the adoption of AI, right? Is exponentially increasing, whether it is bringing in AI ops to make the enterprise more resilient and predictive, right? So we are seeing that entire shift of ITSM that we have seen as a reactive kind of a function, where an employee has an issue, and then once the issue is reported, then the entire service management kicks into picture, right? From that, we have seen it being transformed into a proactive and much more resilient function, where the focus now is not on the typical mean time to resolution, but now I think the trend is changing towards mean time to prediction, right? Or the number of incidents that were prevented from happening, right? So that's the radical shift that we are seeing, in terms of which the IT organizations or the business is expecting IT organizations to function, right? So that's the entire transformative operating model that I was talking about, right? Where the shift is radically happening from what the last 3 decades of IT service management meant, from a support function and what the business was looking for, right? And some of the enablers for that, of course, are the AI and chatbots and AI ops and self-service, which we'll spend some time today on. But I think that's about how we can sum it up in terms of how the global IT service management is shifting towards, and what are the transformational priorities that organizations have. All right, we can move to the next slide, right? So these are, again, this is almost like, to most of you, this is like, preaching to the choir, but, the 5 biggest IT service management challenges that we face today, right? And the most important thing is that CIOs are looking for is, there's a lot of, so one, it's reactive today. 2, there's a lot of repetitive, time-consuming tasks that we can automate. That is pretty clear, right? And 3, there's enormous amount of shadow IT or shadow processes, right? Especially for large enterprises that we work with, right? Where there's siloed IT operations, right? And there's a lot of shadow IT. There are processes that are radically different from one region to another region, right? And it becomes very difficult for us to build a very seamless and cohesive IT service management function, given some of the historic and legacy challenges, right? So those and the outcomes are, we all struggle with day in and day out, in terms of going after SLAs, which are again legacy backed, right? So some of the SLAs are mean time to resolution, right? So mean time to resolution, some of the trends that we've been seeing, they'll be irrelevant, right, in as little as 2 to 3 years from now, right? Because I think the key metric today or going forward would be about, mean time to prediction, right? So how many incidents was I able to predict, and then stop, them from happening, right? And we'll see that going forward in some of the discussions that we'll have, right? So from a transformative experience, right, if you were to reimagine based on, what we're seeing as the trend, and based as what we're seeing as the business ask for ITSM as a function, right? How do you, so you can look at it from two perspectives. One, from an experiential standpoint, right? And two, from an efficiency standpoint, right? And of course, efficiencies would naturally result into better experience. That's number one. And then of course there is enhanced focus on security, right? And we'll only see that going up. And how do we some of those functions like asset management, access management, these are becoming very critical and key, as the single sign-ons and identity management solutions become integral part of how employees access some of the assets and the resources within the enterprise. And then of course with the COVID, I think the amount of importance or the imperative to build in efficiencies, right? Save as much cost as possible, optimize as much cost as possible on repetitive tasks, and invest that back to kind of do more value add tasks. I think that's the key there. And then of course, from a resolution standpoint, right? How can we make it a resilient service desk function, and then of course boost our workforce productivity, right? So that kind of, if you were to map it, that's the kind of transformational map that we look at, right? So given this transformational roadmap that we are looking at, right, if you were to achieve some of those, right, so what would be in a reimagined state, right? What would be the opportunities or the end state, right? That we should look at, right? So for example, if you were to unify and transform all your siloed ITSM ops, right, and maximize value and reduce the or increase the efficiency, right? So that's one of the big opportunities that we see, right? And how do you do that, right? So the way to do that is to bring in a global service desk platform, right? And which and my Sharewell colleagues can talk about, and Sharewell is built for that kind of a function, right? And they are enabling more than a large number of enterprises, right, in making that a reality, right? So that's number one. Having a centralized value engineering team, which is constantly looking at the IT service function and the transformational roadmap, right? And then in conjunction, having the AI in terms of AI ops, bringing in AI ops, self-service capabilities, some of the chatbots, right? And together, right, you are able to achieve better FT utilization. You are able to better rationalize some of your assets in terms of the licenses, in terms of the resources that you spend, right? And overall, you are able to kind of gain improved efficiencies at a very low cost, right? So those are some of the opportunities that I wanted to talk about. And then, for example, some of the engagements that we worked with, right? Where we were able to reduce shadow IT, improve efficiencies, right? And along with that, make the experience better, right? We used some of the tools like right sourcing, and making it a centralized global service desk function, right? Improving self-service with your artificial intelligence bots, bringing in AI ops to predict, make the whole global service desk a predictive operation, right? And what we have seen is typically you are able to reduce up to 60% of the manual FT cost that is going into resolve these tickets, right? And then, of course, you are able to gain a lot of productivity hours by reducing the amount of time it takes to resolve some of these issues, right? And then, of course, what we have seen is for organizations that we work with, which have more than 5,000 employees, solutions like bringing in a global ITSM platform like Sharewell, and then on top of it, building a lot of these AI-powered automation solutions, we were able to gain significant amount of efficiencies, build-in efficiencies, and able to deliver a lot of cost savings for organizations, right? So that's about how we are looking at it, and then just for me to spend some time on what are the key tenets, right, when it comes to automation, right? What would be the key tenets, right, of bringing this? Number one would be self-service and bringing in a lot of self-service capabilities, right? And putting and left shifting some of these resolutions and putting them in the hands of your employees, right? Wherein you are able to achieve significant up to 60% of all your desktop-based inquiries. If employees are able to self-service them, that brings a lot of benefits, right, across the board. And then, of course, bringing in bots and AIOps to kind of automate some of those functions like ticket triage, right? And then lightning fast responses, right? Leveraging, using artificial intelligence to leverage your existing knowledge base, right? And out of that, extract some of those resolution processes, right? So that's another one. And then, of course, by bringing in AIOps into this whole scheme of things, if we are able to predict and reduce the number of incidents that generate even before they occur, I think that that will kind of push the envelope when it comes to the transformative experience, and reduce the downtime downtime in some of the enterprise applications, and give a better experience to business users. Right. Okay, so with that said, I'll hand it over to my colleagues at Sharewell to kind of take us through in terms of some of the aspects that we talked about in enabling a global service desk kind of a platform, which kind of drives efficiency, automation, and a resilient enterprise. So over to you, Matthew, Zach, Chris, and David.
Thank you, Vinay. I always enjoy presenting together, and like how you set up your transition. That slide, last slide you had, just plays so well in the value of how our solutions work together. And again, welcome everyone to today's presentation. Look forward to taking you through a couple of slides talking about the Sharewell product. As you can see here is just a brief summary of who we are as a company. We've got about 2,000 customers globally using the Sharewell platform. And many of our customers today know us from what would be your traditional ITSM solution. Think of us as a help desk product. We are 16 years old in 2020, and most of our customers are using us as an ITSM solution. But if you look at that next kind of box over, we really are a next-gen ESM platform. And most people say, well, what's an ESM platform? If you spend any time looking at Gartner or Forrester or IDC, those ones I've got listed below, they really talk about what is called enterprise service management. Think of your more traditional ITSM functionality, that's your incident, problem, or all your ITIL processes. You could really transpose those across any other platform in your organization. Go to your HR department, facilities, procurement, any of these other security departments, and ask them around automating workflow in those organizations. That's what we talk about in next-gen ESM, and I'll spend a little more time about that in a few minutes in one of our next slides. But our customers love us. A lot of our customers that's been with us for many, many years, you can see we've got a high retention rate or renewal rate of customers that renew with us year over year over year. And if you spend any time looking at Forrester, and you can see that we're named the leader on their Forrester Wave that they've got, IDC, Gartner, spend a lot of time talking about us as a company and what we're doing. And it is important that we talk about the fact that we were a platform type solution. So I'll go ahead and let's just go to the next slide. And if you think about it, Cheryl, this isn't a slide that talks about the product and the tools that we do. This is really more of our value statements or the things that we do for customers. So if you look all the way to the left, that improve IT operational maturity and efficiency, that's your more traditional IT-focused ITIL processes. If you go in and you optimize the areas that IT is really good at, you give your CIO a higher seat at the table. And it gives a stronger voice when the CIO meets with other parts of the organization. If they're improving IT operational maturity and efficiency, it makes the rest of the organization run better, makes the CIO look better across the organization. So a lot of enterprises, and if you think about it, the Gartner talks a lot of times about a maturity model. A lot of organizations, 89% of enterprises are low to intermediate in their maturity model. So implementing solutions like ShareWell and doing the things that we're doing or following ITIL processes are extremely important to those organizations. So next one that's listed there is really a new kind of mindset, is evaluate employee and customer experience and productivity. Is for the longest time, and Vanil alluded to this earlier, is we talk about, we used to spend a lot of time talking about the customer experience and what's your end customer feeling and benefiting. And really it's more about even in the employee, of happy employees and their experience in an organization takes better care of your customers. So, less than 15% of employees want to use an IT self-service tool, but if we can make that easier and give them the ability to use a self-service portal, it just improves their employee experience at work. They don't have to pick up the phone and call someone. They can self-serve their own problems and take care of themselves. And that's using a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, integrating these solutions together, make that so much easier to work together. And then the last to the right, drive business results through IT. Again, that's going to any other part of the organization, listening to what their pains they're experiencing, and then driving those business results. In other words, delivering a solution for their pain, solving that through the IT department. 30 to 50% of IT spend is outside of IT. And there used to be a logo slide I used a lot of times that I would put these images up, and it would be products that other departments bought because they didn't think IT could solve for it. So this next slide, I love this next slide, is, go back one, there you go, perfect, right there. It really, if you think about the generational transformation that we've gone through the last 25 or 30 years in IT, and if you've been in the IT world through that time and you've watched this growth of, before we had ITIL, first generation really was the mainframe green screen environment. We first started kind of trying to track tickets. We had that world of mainframe, what we called PNMS. A little bit of Peregrine was there, but it was the very early first stages of a client server or a mainframe environment. We called them ticketing systems, and we're just trying to track a ticket and trying to put our arms around reporting what those things look like. And then second generation said, well, those environments work, but let's develop a solution that allowed us to have as more of a development platform. So we recognize the need to have a platform that might be able to expand into other teams and other departments. But it might be, let's go get this into the cloud. And so you saw companies like ServiceNow and some other vendors that said, yep, we're gonna develop these things and we're gonna have a platform, but really it still was based on a coding environment. So you still needed a JavaScript developer. You still needed a lot of heavy coded environment. So there was a development platform, a lot of intensive resources. You just happened to be in the cloud, where before we were on a mainframe or on a client server environment, a lot of coding. Now we're just gonna go stick it in the cloud. So it took long implementations, a lot of requirements gathering, became legacy really quick. You ended up with fatigue. So you might be able to go to a department and say, hey, I can automate this workflow. It's gonna take me 6 months to develop it, and you can't upgrade it because it's really expensive to upgrade. So you ended up with that cost value gap. Well, ShareWell sees ourselves, and so does any of the big analyst companies. They talk about this new third generation. It's really around this ESM I mentioned before, or even more importantly, no code. Is let's get to the cloud, absolutely, but let's also give you the ability to stay on-premise. If you don't want it in the cloud, you can take the same code and keep it on your servers, on-premise environment. So same code in the cloud or not in the cloud, but make it no code. Don't need the development type resources to configure the system. Make it very visual so I can drag and drop, right click type scenarios. Give me the same complexity. I can build a very complex workflow, but don't require a JavaScript developer. Give me more of a configuration type individual to build out this functionality, which gives me a fast time to value compared to a long implementation cycle. It allows me to modernize and transform very quickly compared to something that gets old really quick. I love the word excitement. Your other departments get excited whenever they can get new functionality very quickly versus getting tired and waiting for functionality. And again, favorite word, value driver, is we don't get caught up in, hey, how expensive it is to try to maintain this system, because I'm consistently providing value to these other organizations. Right, next slide. So, typical logo slide is you hear me talk in the first slide that I presented is, hey, sure, we got 2,000 customers, but you had no clue. Were they little bitty customers? Were they big customers? Not talk about Forrester. It's always important for you to see. These are names you recognize. These are companies that we do business with all day, every day. Obviously, there's not 2,000 logos on this, but these are companies around the globe that use Cherwell to automate their workflow. And I've got Chris Brandstetter on the call with me today. I'm going to hand it over to him here in just a minute. He's going to give you some use case examples of how some of these customers and some other customers that will actually describe how they're using the Cherwell product to solve this type of business pain. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great, thanks Matthew, and thanks Manil. So just to expand upon the idea here, so enterprise service management is really just at its fundamental level, the idea of taking you're providing a service, you're providing a good, and you can turn that into an automated function so that people can make it easier and get a better experience. So this is just a smattering of some of the examples that Cherwell's provided for its customers that have taken it to Matthew's point outside of IT. It's no longer just a service desk. It's no longer just IT providing something. It's any organization within your enterprise now can provide those. Provide a service, and you can automate all those functions. So this is just a quick example of some of those, and then we can take some of these from a perspective and say for some of these companies, security management is a big deal. So Cherwell provides security management applications so that you can provide and do all your audits and your security reviews, and that's and have an input for security breaches based off of particular events from your event monitoring system. So companies have started initiated with security management, facilities management, absolutely is a huge one. So the idea that we can take work orders and facilities work calls and turn those into separate workflows outside of IT, and have those be automated and controlled in their own kind of workflow fashion. HR is another huge one. We're going to talk about HR as a major feature here in just a second here, but the idea of work orders and case management, and again, they don't have to be shoehorned within IT. They can have their own workflow, their own functions, their own automation, where you can go request and have secure HR communication to your customers. Other extensions, basically things like portals, portal management, and having self-service functions for all of these different intakes. A lot of our examples on this sheet here incorporate things like medical device management. So those are that enhances out your configuration management database and allows your customers to see the full life cycle and understanding of those those assets within the confines of a configuration management database, which is a central hub of the Cherwell platform. Beyond that, things like chain of custody, so check things out. Those are all pertinent for those kinds of those business cases. So the next thing I was going to point out was the kind of the more low-level use case, and that was the one of our customers that is absolutely near and dear to my heart, University of Missouri, kind of my back office or backwoods here, and I live in Missouri, and I went to school here. So this was a great use case, and they're a very, very, very happy customer of ours. And so basically, they several years ago they came to us and just said they've outgrew their system, but they want to approach things in a little different manner. They actually started with HR as the proof point in which to get access into their overall system. So we went in there and we proved out our HR application, and again a standalone from IT Service Management, now HR Service Management, and showed that out to them. And so they ultimately, when we proved all that out, there was value to be seen in bringing all of the university system into play here. for a overall service management, enterprise service management delivery. So Cheryl was selected, and then now, so I'll go down to that third bullet there. So the the third bullet there. And basically what they're at now is, after a few years, they went live with HR, they went live with IT, and then they did a lot of consolidation because of resources. They had to bring in some functions with other universities. So all of their IT sits under one umbrella now. All 1,200 users or whatever within IT support the whole university across 5 different campuses and the hospital. It's 4 campuses in the hospital. And beyond that, so they've expanded into finance, student administration, so requesting things like room changes, our dormitory changes, teachers and learning, academic research, so lab requests for facilities and or devices within the lab arena. It's all a enterprise service management function that they were able to build out very easily. As they've worked through this, they've done a lot of consolidation, which resulted in a lot of cost savings. So they have all 4 of their campuses, including the hospital, are now a single instance. But the Cheryl platform has been very dynamic for them. So they have unique user experience and portals and catalogs and service offerings for each one of their universities. So they all don't know they interact with each other. So now the end result now is they support roughly 300,000 users, including their current users, the current students, former students, faculty, contractors, etc. Huge user base. So great success story from an enterprise perspective. So really where this all kind of ties into, and just kind of the overlay of the Cheryl platform, right in the heart of it, as Matthew alluded to, is the no-code platform. The idea that everything that from portals, mobile, dashboards, forms, workflows are all built and managed, and you can build all of this without knowing a single line of code. Dashboarding is all drag and drop. Automation engine is all drag and drop as well. And so that makes up your formatting. It makes up the overall time to value a much quicker prospect. And then you wrap all of that and all the applications that Cheryl delivers as a base for your processes, everything from service management, IT service management, security, asset management, project portfolio, facilities, HR service management, and then of course extensions past that. So Cheryl has a robust library within our marketplace called the Map Exchange that allows you to add on additional maturity levels for existing processes or bring in whole new processes altogether. So wrapping the quick time to configure all of this, and then the already established maturity model really expands upon that. And then lastly, I want to point out, our integration services can be done through a rich set of APIs. So that tie into things like Suneratech, Chatbot, and all that offerings that they would provide. But we have a rich set of APIs that incorporates that, and also as well, an iPaaS solution or an integration platform as a service offering. So because at the end of the day, this typically enterprise service management becomes the hub and spoke of all your kind of operations or IT operations that are out there. So that's the Cheryl platform in a nutshell. And then also I'll leave this as a high level, and just to go through this real quick, this is just some of the many applications that are already built and ready to go, and that they ultimately get expanded upon as you develop and grow your processes. So in the IT space, it sticks with the pink elephant, best practices, ITIL processes. But over in security management, all of those are there as well, from incident security remediation, audit preparation, risk analysis, GRC, facilities, legal, sales. All of these are all built out, ready to go. And then ultimately, we want to take them, expand upon them, and make them work for you and your enterprise needs. So with that, I think that's. I'll turn it back over to Nell. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for that. It was very insightful. And taking off from from some of the aspects that were alluded to in terms of why Cherwell as an enterprise service management platform is so modern and extendable, right? So the way the Sharewell ESM was built as a platform really allowed a lot of our customers to bring in a lot of automations very quickly to market, right? Because of their out-of-box capabilities, low-code solution, and their extensive set of APIs, we were able to build really good automation solutions, right? And some of the features that that were alluded to in terms of the strong knowledge management capabilities, in terms of the process mapping capabilities, in terms of the multiple levels of ticket categorization capabilities, right? So those are some of the capabilities that this strong ESM platform works as a system of record, so that we can use a lot of these machine learning algorithms to quickly understand what are the current challenges, or what are the repeatable IT issues that we can automate, right? So given those three capabilities, right, in terms of having a robust knowledge base, in terms of having a robust ticket triaging capability within the platform, and the deep categorization and insights that Sharewell ESM is able to bring to the table. On top of that, we were able to build robust AI chatbots, right, which can quickly resolve or automatically resolve some of those IT and HR issues. So that's what Suneratech and Sharewell partnered together, looking at that opportunity, and then we were able to bring some of those solutions to the table, right? Maybe you should move to the next slide. Yeah, so just to give you a high level of what Suneratech does today, we are a cloud-born and digital-first company, right? So we are the world's first company to position ourselves as cloud-born, because we've been building cloud platforms for a decade now, right? In automating supply chain, in automating marketing, in automating back office processes like order to cash, procure to pay, ITSM, and some of those platforms. So we've got a bunch of 7 or 8 platforms, and we are one of the fastest growing innovation companies in the world today. We are headquartered in the Silicon Valley. We have about 1,200 consultants working for us, and so we work especially with large enterprises, which have a global presence, and because we understand the nuances of enterprise digital transformation, right? So we work with close to about 150 plus enterprise customers today. Most of them enterprise segment, some of them in mid-market. When I say enterprise, more than $10 billion in revenue, and some in the mid-market, which are above $1 billion to $5 billion, right? So that's the playbook for us when it comes to enterprise. And some of the interesting models that we've been very successful, not because of our products or IP by themselves, right? They don't mean anything to enterprises, right? But we focused on the value that we will enable enterprises. We focused on how do we enable the digital transformation, right? Given that there's no new money, for IT especially, where budgets are being contracted, where cash flow is hard to come by, right, and hard to hold on to. Given those or nuances, right? So we focused on how do we enable these digital transformation kind of journeys through a self-funded transformation model, right? So we came up with a proprietary framework called Manage, Automate, Migrate, and Innovate, right? Which is the MAMI model, where we look at so manage is all about looking at what are the processes or the back office process that you can, that you can better manage or right source in terms of, reducing the cost of some of those run the business functions, right? And then look at how to automate that, right? Some of those processes. So a combination of right sourcing and automation would bring you significant savings, and we commit to those savings beforehand, right? So for some of the enterprises, we committed that we'll reduce your entire run the business cost by 40%, right? Using a right sourcing and an automation strategy put together, and we invest in that, right? So we invest in that, and anywhere investments can be anywhere upwards of $1 million to $20 million, right? That we invest, and then we migrate some of those legacy applications to the cloud, and a combination of these three will be you'll be able to invest back whatever savings that we generate into some of those innovation initiatives that you might want to embark on, right? So that's the whole self-funded transformation model that we kind of perfected the last 2 years, right? So just to give you an example, so you can move to the next slide. So just to give you an example of how we enabled a self-funded transformation of an ITSM process, right? So for a large automation or a manufacturing company, right? They had about 9,600 employees, 32 manufacturing locations around the globe. They had a large application footprint, both on-prem and cloud. And then the biggest challenge was the multiple languages, right? Now, so they had a siloed IT operations around the world. In fact, they had about 7 different IT service desks across US, LATAM, Asia Pac, and Middle East, right? So now when we looked at that, this kind of a landscape, and then we applied the framework of, having a global ITSM or global service management solution, right? Like Sharewell, right? So one, we were able to get that in place with all the required multi-language capabilities, a global service desk management capability, being able to bring in the flavors of individual regions, right? The workflow flavors of individual regions built in, but then having a overall ITIL compliant process, right? So that's the number one. So we were able to build the platform for a global service desk, right? So that's number one. On top of which we said, okay, we should bring in automation using bots, right? So the end result, right? So they had about 24,000 tickets coming in per year, and they used to take about 18 on an average across regions. They were taking about 18.2 hours as a MTTR, right? And we had when we looked in, and when we went in and looked in, we found an opportunity to kind of automate 62% of their tickets being generated in terms of first contact resolution, right? So we took some of those, and then we kind of optimized the operation and automated the operation, and the end result you can see yourself. We are able to almost more than 50% of the tickets incidents we are able to automatically resolve without any manual intervention, right? Thereby, almost saving $250,000, right? Of hard dollars on the table, right? For them to invest in other innovative things, right? So this is an extension of that. In terms of how we managed to do that, implement that global service desk, and then make sure that we kind of signed up for the outcomes that we wanted to deliver for that, right? So we invested in, for a large oil and gas customer, we invested in deploying a global service desk platform, bringing in automation and chatbots on top of that, and we committed to a savings of more than $1.5 million across 5 years. Right? So that's some of the work that we did. right? Now, purely from an automation standpoint, right? Today, Service Next, which is the platform that we built on Sharewell to automate some of these the incident management, right? So we have about 31 use cases that we bring out of the box for you, right? Right from authentication management, and we've seen that 60% of all the incidents, most of them fall in password resets today across enterprise applications, network, and some of those messaging platforms that you might use, right? So that's the bulk of the tickets that we can automate straight out of the bat, right? And then, of course, access and authorization management, which is all about application access, approval workflows that are involved, for shared content portals, email distribution lists, right? So some of those workflows where approvals are required, we're able to kind of bring that automation out of the box. And the biggest piece is the ITSM incident management, where we've seen that incident triage, right, itself is the biggest piece where, we can reduce a lot of time today by removing the back and forth that happens between an agent and an employee, where, only half of the information is shared most of the times. The agent had to go look at it, get back to the customer or the employee, and then ask for additional details, and then go solve it, right? So bringing in AI to kind of triage that, right, in one go, gives us a capability to reduce a lot of the mean time to resolution metric there, right? And of course, we've built several knowledge bases where bots are pre-trained with self-service capabilities across some of the popular IT incidents that happen today, across whether it is you're using Microsoft Outlook or you are using SAP or an Oracle. So we've built knowledge bases, right, and FAQs that are ready to use for your employees for promoting self-service, right? So these are some of the use cases that we've built and IT that we've built, right? So from a architecture and an integration standpoint, we are built on top of, like I said, we are built on top of Sharewell with all those use cases coming out of the box for you. And the bot supports a variety of different channels. The bots can live on your Sharewell portal. The bots can live on SMS, Slack, Skype, Microsoft Teams, right? So across a variety of channels, you can deploy the bot, right? And this is also an out-of-the-box solution. For AI capabilities, we use top-of-the-line technology powered by Amazon AI, Microsoft, Amazon Lex, right? So these are some of the best of the breed solutions that we kind of assembled together to build the digital assistant, so that your investments are protected over a longer period of time, right? And yeah, so just to go through, I think we are running out of time. We just have 8 minutes, but this is just a view to give you on how to quickly start, right? So what we've done is Suneratech brings to the table some of the proof of values, right? So in the proof of value, you can reach out to us, and then you can select 3 or 4 use cases that you want to kind of pilot with, right? It is bought to you at no cost at all, at 0 cost, right? And you can and within about 3 to 4 weeks, we'll deploy it in your environment. You can take it live, and then you can see, touch and feel the value add that these bots are bringing to the table for you, right? So just wanted to end there and see if and see if Matthew and team has any other inputs there, or we can quickly move to the Q&A. And for the Q&A, I think we have a you can ask in the chat, right? And we'll make sure that we'll respond either here, or we can definitely respond to you offline or emails. So Matthew and team, would you want to add anything else?
No, hey, this is Matt. I think a good presentation. I mean, this is a great value to anybody that's truly thinking through this process. I mean, you're seeing a system that's designed with a lot of thought and a lot of energy that customers are extremely interested in. And this is not something that is typically decided upon from a manager level. I mean, this is what a C-suite, VP type strategy is approaching. I mean, this is digital transformation at its best, right, Vinil?
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. I think you touched upon a really good point. From a and one of the things that Suneratech and Sharewell have jointly been able to do very successfully is to help you navigate this transformation journey, right? Because transformation sometimes can be scary, right? And believe me, we've been able to take managers and directors, right, and help them navigate this by building solid business cases for them and proof of value engagements, right? And then what happens is, then once you have the business case, then it's very easy to navigate within the enterprise and get the buy-in from the C-suite, right? So not to be intimidating about looking at a transformation. We have seen managers who have championed that. We have seen assistant managers who have championed that, right? And it's been very successful because most of the times it's the managers and the directors who are actually keyed in to some of those challenges that we have in IT service desk or IT service management. And they are the champions who can really appreciate the value of automation and enterprise service management transformation that we can bring to the table. Yeah. So good point, Matthew, there. All right, so we can open it up for questions. I know there's a lot of participants, but we have next to 5 minutes, but please feel free to put in your questions. Whatever we can answer today, we'll answer. Otherwise, we'll make sure that you are getting those answers offline.
Thanks, Vinil, Matthew, and Chris for a great articulation. Yeah.
Sure. And so do you see? I can't see any questions coming up. Do you see any questions coming up? Am I not seeing them? Okay. Maybe you'll have to tell the audience.
Yeah.
So there's a Q&A button that you see below. So you can ask. You can click on that button and you can ask any questions that you want. All right. So we'll stay on for a minute if there are any questions. Otherwise, thank you all for the participation today. We'll make sure that we will send you the deck that we are using today so that you can have it as a reference to all the participants, and we'll take the conversations from there. Thank you all so much for participation today. You guys have a great day, whichever part of the world that you are. Stay safe once again, yeah, thank you so much for that time.
Thank you, everyone.
Matthew, you want to have some closing notes, or should we wrap up?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. Look forward to the follow-up. And
yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. We will share you all the relevant links and presentation post this webinar, including the webinar recording. Thank you for the participation in today's webinar. We hope to see you again next time. Stay safe and have a great day.